Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Barry. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So I love that Barry thought he was only going to have to kill Ferdinand, but it's like, no, it's not Fernando, but it turns out it's like, well, you're going to have to kill multiple people too, because I guess Hank's thought is that there's going to be a multiple chain of people that comes to fill that void unless you, I don't know, I feel like killing more people is just going to draw even more attention, but he is like the head honcho of the whole situation. But I love that he has to use a detonation app, and you're like, Barry's like, okay, so, well, I'm putting it into, it's like, okay, need my location, yes, ready to use my personal information for surveys, why not? And he's like, okay, here's the detonation app, which I'm like, it's crazy to know that there's a freaking app for that. And there's like, Barry's like, okay, so where's the bomb? And they're like, there it is, all the way out there in the parking lot. And they're just yelling, go ahead, pick it up. I was like, you douchebags. And I was like, I don't know why Barry's just okay with it, because the bomb is in, I'm assuming, Chechen. And I'm like, you don't know what that's saying. But it kept repeating the same thing over and over again. Maybe it was saying, like, the bomb is armed. The bomb is armed. The bomb is armed. But it was like, it kept saying that over and over again, and I guess that was why he was so delicate and careful with it. But I love that he sets up the bomb. I know this is going to go wrong in some shape or form, and the way it goes wrong is he tries to detonate it, but it doesn't work. But I love that he calls up the server. He's like, yeah, so I'm trying to use the detonation app, and the bomb didn't go off. It's like, okay, do you have the most updated version of the app? Okay, is your Bluetooth on? Okay. Hold on for a minute while we go and try and figure this out. Okay, hey, I think, comes back later on. I think I know what the issue is. Your Wi-Fi's on. I was like, that makes sense. Because it probably needs, it's weird to say, but it's probably like, well, it's either saying, it suggests, because his Wi-Fi's on, it's probably like, he's not, because it's trying to connect through the Wi-Fi rather than using his mobile data to connect the app to the bomb. So maybe that's what it is, or at the very least, maybe the phone trying to search for a Wi-Fi signal is stopping it from, like, sending his mobile data to the bomb. That's my justification for it. But I love that while he was fiddling with it, Cristobal walks into the house. I was like, oh, that's not good, that's not good. I was like, oh, Cristobal's going to accidentally die. I'm glad that he didn't. It actually kind of benefited him in the long run, because his father-in-law found out about not only, like, oh, you're cheating on my daughter. And it seems like Elena's the one who kind of pushed for Cristobal to really, like, be brought into everything that he could eventually take over. But her dad never thought he was good enough. So I was like, right, I sent you here to LA to take over things, which is the equivalency of running Disneyland, and you still managed to fuck it up. So you got two choices. Either you let me kill you as retribution for what you've done, hurt my daughter and such, or you go take me to your lover, Hank, and you put a bullet in his head. And Cristobal being like, no, you'll have to kill me first. So it's like, oh. And he jokes like, his father-in-law jokes like, oh, it must be true love, which, yeah, it is. The fact is that he's willing to sacrifice himself to make sure Hank survives. But luckily, the bomb went off when it did, because if it didn't, Cristobal probably would be dead. Or at the very least, he would have been in a very tight situation, because, like, he walked to that house. I mean, not unless his car was nearby, but I was scared when the bomb went off, because I was like, oh, please tell me he's not dead. But it's like, no, he's okay. But he does look pretty banged up. I mean, God knows how much shrapnel might have, because it looks like his back is, like, his shirt. Maybe that's just, like, kind of dust and stuff from, like, the explosion, but it almost looked like there were shrapnel, like it looked like his shirt was kind of sliced from, like, shrapnel flying into it or something. Maybe not. But luckily, Barry takes him to Hank, and Hank's like, yes, thank you, here's all the money. So kind of, I mean, Barry needed this job just because I think he needed an outlet after everything with Gene, which Gene this episode is in panic mode, trying to get his son and his grandson out of LA. He ends up sitting down with his agent, who's like, which I recognize that actor. I've seen him in plenty of things, but I love that he's like, really, Gene? And I figured as much after last episode, after his performance on the show. I was like, they're actually going to love his take on it. And it's like, yeah, they did. And it's like, right, they actually want to give your character more lines. And he thought, like, man, you were kind of in the shithole when it came to your reception in Hollywood, because most people can't stand you because he's like, you kind of have a shitty reputation. People think of you as a dummy, a loser, and like runs on and on and on and on, and even later on saying a fuck. And then Gene's like, someone thinks I'm a fuck? It's like, yeah. He's like, I love that's the one that caught his attention. And I love his agent was like, yeah, none of these are my words. I'm like, you probably thought of them yourself, but this whole role situation like did fix Gene's reputation. It's mainly the Barry stuff that fixes reputation, because they're like, oh wow, you actually helped a vet through acting. There's actually a Variety article that he has, and the reason why he knows about it is because Joe Montana shows up being like, hey, I know we have our issues. He's like, I'm breaking a restraining order I have against you. I'm like, what the fuck did you do, Gene, for Joe to have a restraining order against you? And just like, it's like, yeah, like, the article talks about like the good that Gene has done, so it's done a lot to fix his reputation. So it's like, hey, some of the people are going to be over at Friday. Why don't you come over, Gene? Simplify. Because I wonder, is that true about Joe, or is that just for the sake of the show that he, works with like vet programs and stuff? I won't put that past him. That probably is like a real thing to Joe himself in real life. That might not just be something they made up for the show. Because there's also plenty of actors I know that have their ties to vets and stuff like that, like trying to put more attention to the stuff that vets have to go through, like not getting the proper help and stuff when they come back home and stuff, and just like the transitional period and stuff like that. So I just thought that was kind of neat. And but Gene still wants to leave. But when he gets back home, lo and behold, Barry's here. But all the money Barry got from Hank, Barry's given to him. It's like, right, I'm sorry I took you hostage. I'm going to leave you and your family alone. Like, all this money, it belongs to Leo. And he's like, you'll never see me again. Because he realizes in the long run what he did. I think when he saw Hank and Cristobal together, it's like, right, that's what you really do. That's really caring for someone. What I didn't care for Mr. Like, I appreciate what Mr. Cousineau's done for me, but this isn't how, yeah, he has every right to feel the way he does. Like, I thought I could just try and slap a Band-Aid on this. It's like, no, I killed his girlfriend. I threatened him. I threatened his family. That's not good. I'm not a good person for that. So I appreciate everything he's done, and there's no guarantee he's going to keep his mouth shut. I mean, I'm sure maybe the money was supposed to be an incentive of keep your mouth shut. But it's like, right, I won't come after you or your family again. I'll leave you alone, because it's like, I do respect you for everything you've done. You kind of, because of you, I've gotten to this point in my life, and I have a good means of starting over. So Gene is staying, so along with his entire family. So the question now becomes, well, where does things go on that front? Because another angle to this episode is Sally. I love that she's trying to write her story about, like, trying to write out her speech and what Natalie's right. Once again, it's like, Natalie gets no respect. And I love that whole Tweety thing. It's so cute. It's like, Natalie, this is my story. And she's like, what? You're Tweety? I'm like, oh, that's so adorable. I love Darcy Gordon so much. I love her so much, dude. Because I loved her as Janet on The Good Place. So she's always going to have a special place in my heart. But I love that whole Tweety thing. Tweety, it's time to go milk the cows. I'm like, it's so cute. And it's like, yeah, they're like on their way to like the premiere and stuff, and it's like, oh, thank you. And Natalie's like, oh, cool, I thought we were going to, okay, I guess I'll find another ride there. Once again, it's like, that's why I think it's so interesting and ironic. It's like, Barry's a kind of a dick, but it's like, whether she realizes or not, like, Natalie deserves some respect too, but she gets none. Even later on when they're doing like the red carpet, like photos and stuff, like, and Natalie tries to squeeze in, which I thought that whole situation was so cute. I don't know if those photos actually got taken, because when we cut back to it later on, it's just the trio. I think it's like the lady who's like the main producer or whatever of it, and Sally and Katie. So I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, her getting all those questions, and it's just like, it's so interesting kind of getting kind of that different perspective on things. Because you see, I mean, it gets showcased in movies and TV shows too, but I'm so used to it more so from like, like interviews from like TV shows, like oh yeah, Extra TV or E! News or whatever is like interviewing an actor on like some, when they're at some premiere or something like that. I'm so used to that side of things, so it kind of throws me for a loop. Kind of seeing it from this perspective and this lens, but I did think it was beautiful, Sally's speech, and you generally do feel the excitement knowing like, wow, her project is well received. It's like, oh my god, Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 98. The competition, Pam, only has a 27, because it's like, right, the story kind of found this in-between lane with the dramedy of it all. And I just thought it was so amazing. And obviously, like, she's freaking out. It's just that real excitement that she just kind of like sniffling, and she can't say anything. And then ultimately, it comes down to her thanking everyone. It's like Jean, Barry, Lindsay, and you can tell like Katie, the whole thanking Barry thing didn't sit well with her. So at the end of it all, she talks to Sally. She's like, no, I don't think Barry's a good person. And it's just like, you're an amazing person, and I just don't want to see you get hurt. Like, the way he talked to you that time wasn't right. And so that is the thing of like, Sally was kind of paused there. I was wondering whether she was going to push back more against that, and she doesn't. And ultimately, when she sees Barry later on, she breaks up with him. I was like, that's interesting, but also the right move, because she's like, right, I thought back on that now, and it took sometimes you need a third perspective of, I think it is right. I don't think like they're good, because we know Barry's not a good person. He was trying his best to change it, and he's still a work in progress. Jeez. We're all works in progress, but it's like, yeah, the way he blew up her like that, it's like, once again, we don't know if there's been instances of that throughout their entire relationship in between season 2's finale and the season 3 premiere, but at the very least, like, the way she was like, oh, I gotta get home, fix stuff for Barry, and it's just like, she was conforming herself to him, and she's already been through that with Sam. She's always like, no, I've seen this cycle before, I'm not gonna get caught up in that again, because I don't want to be, I've made so much progress, I don't want to be that person again. I'm not going, so I think that was kind of the right move on her part, but for Barry, it's almost like, what? I had a bad day. It's like, yeah, but when you have a bad day, people die. You had a bad day in season 2's finale. You killed a lot of people. Your bad day isn't a normal person's bad day, So, look, I get it too. Like, once again, I am someone who's more aware of, like, yeah, I have anger issues. So, like, I always try to, like, keep that under control to realize, like, right, I know, like, I can be easily set off. It's not a one-to-one, but it's that thing of, like, really kind of knowing yourself. And I think Barry, sometimes he's aware of his issues, and other times he's not. Because that's why I also like some of the stuff when they were working through this, work in season 2 at the acting class, that you're just kind of like, it kind of made me a little nervous, because I was always afraid Barry might snap because of the look in his eyes. Like, anytime Sally wanted to push him for the sake of the scene, I always felt uncomfortable. I was like, it might get a little too real, and I'm scared of what the outcome could be. And I think maybe Sally hasn't quite reached that point because she doesn't know that side of Barry like we do, but she still kind of got an inkling of it with the way he blew up at her that day. So I'm curious to see where that kind of goes. Now it's like 2 people in his life are gone, Sally and now Mr. Cousineau. Then on top of that, you add in the fact is that Fuchs is off getting his revenge. I thought that was an interesting development where we got, which that actress who plays the wife, I was like, I've seen her in so many things. It's one of those things where, like, you recognize an actor, you just can never pinpoint. Like, that happens to me so many times. But, like, pinpointing, like, one piece of their work that you're, like, just like, oh, this thing is something I know them from. I thought that was an interesting twist, making it so that I thought, well, like, when the guy died, I was like, oh, is Barry going to lay next to him or something like that? But then I realized, like, oh my god, this is the guy Barry kills at the beginning of the series. I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, so that's coming back. And it's like, the moment she answers the door, and even before she opens the door, you can see through the glass of the door, you're like, it's Fuchs. This is how he's going to get revenge. He's basically probably going to track down every person that every person that Barry's ever killed, people close to him. So he visited that guy's wife and son. Then you had him visiting Ryan's dad. So he's pinpointing everyone. It's like, right, how I don't need to build up an army like he was trying to get an army from NoHo Hank and stuff. And I was like, no, I don't actually need an army. I can make an army of Panthers out for revenge on my own by gathering up all the people, which is so jacked up considering you're the one that gave Barry those jobs. So it's like, yeah, but here you are being so pissy with, you know, just like Barry's kind of oblivious of certain aspects about himself. Fuchs definitely is as well. So it is messed up, and we don't know about Ryan's dad, but we see the wife and son are buying a gun. I kept thinking the entire time in the back of my head, I'm like, is it actually going to be Barry's address that they're getting sent to, or is it going to be someone else's just because it's furthermore of like Fuchs' middle finger? But I don't think that's going to go the way especially, well, we know at least 3 people are connected to that house. So the question then becomes like, well, Barry, well, actually, no, because Sally's going to be staying somewhere else for a while. I think she said she's going to be staying with Natalie for a while Barry packs up his stuff. So eventually Barry will probably move out, and by the time they get there, Sally be like, no, Barry doesn't live here anymore. So that's going to probably put us like a little, they'll have to put a pin in their revenge, you know. So maybe it kind of worked out in the long run because Barry probably wouldn't have seen it coming but still he's a proficient enough killer that he probably would have walked away killing all of them. And at the very least, this stops them from crossing that line. But it's like, right, these are people who are in so much pain that they, because the mom is talking to her son about, like, will this bring us peace? And he's like, right, maybe this will after all that they've been through. And especially for Ryan's dad, it's like, right, this guy put it on the Chechens to say that they killed my son because he was mixed up with them. And now he's off living my son's dream. Killed him and also gets to live his life as an actor, which, you know, that was my son's dream, and he doesn't get to live that anymore because of Barry. So it's definitely going to be really, really interesting to ultimately see where all of that ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. I'm also curious to know how Hank's boss is going to feel about the whole Cristobal thing. Is that going to just be a secret? It's like, well, the others were there at the time, so I don't know whether they know that, you know, because I think Hank was just saying, like, oh yeah, Cristobal won't be there, so I don't know if they're in the know about that and just their boss isn't, or, but what's that going to turn into next time when it's like, oh, your boss is going to be there, and like, oh, Cristobal is still alive. Will he have issue with that or not? Consider Fernando and the others are dead. We'll have to wait and see, but that's really all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.